Well, it was regarded as one of the most daring military strikes in history, with the North Korean army surrounding American and South Korean troops in a small corner of the peninsula. General Douglas MacArthur launched an amphibious landing behind enemy lines. The Inchon landing, 60 years ago today, saved the Americans and their allies from certain defeat. Well, today a small group of Australian veterans from the Korean War returned to Incheon to watch a reenactment of the landing. North Korea denounced the reenactment as a farce involving US sycophants and lackeys. North Asia correspondent Mark Willesee reports from Incheon.
At 06:30, the invasion began. 15 seconds before the Marines hit the beach, the bombardment was lifted at Wolny, but continued at Incheon.
Audacious, brilliant, stunning. The Incheon landing behind enemy lines turned the tide of the Korean War, pushing communist troops all the way back to the Chinese border. It would be General Douglas MacArthur's last great success, a gamble which would break the spirit of the North Koreans.
It was a masterpiece. It was a marvellous piece of work. He was a brilliant man. Brilliant man.
The landing was an unqualified success. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. But MacArthur gambled on that. He gambled 70,000 men on that one operation, and he could have lost 2/3 of them.
If we didn't come, they wouldn't have survived.
This is what you want in your cities.
It's unreal, it's beautiful.
6 decades after taking part in the so-called Forgotten War, these Australians have returned to the Korean Peninsula as guests of a grateful government in Seoul. When these men fought here, this city was in ruins. Today it's a monument to the capitalist cause and the resilience of its people.
Marvellous people. To think they could crawl out of nothing to what they've got. You must take your hat off to them. You must.
By the morning of 16 September, Incheon had been taken against light resistance.
But without the Incheon landing 60 years ago today, this peninsula could have been united under the communist banner. 13,000 soldiers stormed ashore that day, surprising the North Koreans and taking back Seoul. John Gubbins was part of an anti-submarine unit on board HMAS Bataan, which was part of the Incheon fleet.
The logistics on it was mind-boggling, but yet they done it. They done it. It was so huge, the landing. Nobody, we were only little cogs, grains of sand in the whole big operation.
During their visit, these old sailors got to catch up with another Australian veteran of Incheon, HMAS Warramunga. Not the original, but her second incarnation.
Hang on. Rightio. Rightio, mate. Thank you.
And before they even reached the gangway, they were lauded by the locals, in this case, a South Korean admiral.
The Republic of Korea is founded upon the sacrifice and the devotion that you have offered.
Thank you.
Okay.
More than 17,000 Australians fought as part of the United Nations multinational force in Korea. 340 died, 1,200 were wounded. Among them, Keith Hazel. Hit by an arresting wire on the carrier Sydney, he was almost killed.
Padre was giving me the last rites, and I didn't quite agree with him, and so I believe I said some nasty words to him.
These days, nasty words are a matter of course across the border between the two Koreas. 6 decades on, the veterans came to see the thin red line, which is supposed to keep these enemies apart. Within a few kilometres of this demilitarised zone, there are nearly 1 million battle-ready North and South Korean troops, and also thousands of rockets and artillery pieces. For these veterans, it's a stark reminder that the war they fought in so many decades ago is still not over, officially at least.
It does, it worries me, and I only hope I can live to see it reunited. I really do, because that's what it was all about.
450-odd thousand graves up there. That's tremendous, isn't it? You know, you think it wasn't all worth it, but it is. I say, freedom doesn't come cheap.
The sinking earlier this year of a South Korean warship by a North Korean torpedo once again pushed the peninsula towards the brink. And many believe it's along the disputed sea border where war could again erupt. Today, just south of that maritime border, old allies staged a reenactment of the Inchon landing. Through the smoke, landing craft charged towards the shore just like they did 6 decades ago. Nestled among the armada was HMAS Warramunga, replaying its role in that famous landing.
Like I've been reborn again. I didn't believe I could ever see it again.
Today's reenactment was watched by old sailors, soldiers and airmen from 8 countries that fought under the United Nations banner. It was Douglas MacArthur who said old soldiers never die, they just fade away. But today, the General was back at Inchon.
It was something I'll never see again in my lifetime. It was spectacular.
Today may have been a blast from the past, but on the Korean Peninsula, the threat of a real battle remains. Mark Willesee, Lateline.